For most of human history, if you wanted to move heavy goods or operate machinery, you paid for it in calories and sweat. Our entire production capacity was limited by biological stamina, the raw, exhausting muscle power of humans and draft animals. When manufacturers needed more force than muscle could provide, they turned to water wheels. But this created a strict geographic bottleneck. Factories were physically tethered to fast-flowing rivers, leaving vast stretches of land completely unusable for large-scale production. The first real attempt to break away from those rivers was the Newcomen steam engine. It was a massive, clumsy machine, and because of how expensive it was to run, it was almost exclusively used for a single task, pumping floodwater out of deep coal mines. This diagram illustrates the Newcomen engine's fatal flaw. To create the vacuum that made the engine work, the machine filled a large cylinder with boiling steam and then injected cold water to condense it. This meant the metal cylinder was being cooled down and then immediately reheated on every single cycle. The amount of fuel required to overcome this constant loss of latent heat made the engine far too expensive to operate anywhere but sitting directly on top of a free supply of coal. Until someone figured out how to patch this massive thermodynamic leak, human manufacturing remained strictly level-capped by its inefficient energy sources. In 1764, the University of Glasgow handed a broken, scale-model Newcomen engine to their resident mathematical instrument maker, a 28-year-old named James Watt. As Watt repaired the model, he observed the extreme heat loss firsthand. He realized that for a steam engine to ever run efficiently, the main cylinder had to be kept permanently hot. It could never be allowed to cool down. In 1765, Watt developed his elegant solution. As we see in this vector layout, he diverted the exhaust steam out of the main cylinder and into an isolated secondary chamber. In this separate condenser, the steam cooled back into water without draining heat from the primary working cylinder. This precise thermodynamic separation slashed fuel waste and created a far stronger vacuum, drastically multiplying the engine's power output. But a highly efficient pump is still just a pump. To truly upgrade human infrastructure, the engine had to break out of its strict vertical up and down motion. By 1781, Watt engineered the sun and planet gear. This mechanism translated the beam's reciprocating vertical strokes into continuous rotary motion, allowing the engine to drive circular belts, wheels, and complex factory machinery. With the separate condenser solving the fuel problem and the new gears solving the motion problem, the steam engine transitioned from a niche mining tool into a highly scalable, universal power source. Designing these precise mechanical upgrades was one challenge. Paying for their construction was another. Watt possessed the schematics, but he lacked the personal capital to cast the heavy iron components and manufacture his designs at scale. He found his solution in Matthew Boulton, a wealthy manufacturer who owned a massive engineering works in Birmingham. Boulton provided the financial backing and the factory floor, allowing Watt to focus entirely on pushing the technology further. Together, they released the double-acting engine. Instead of steam pushing the piston in only one direction, Watt configured the valves so steam applied force on both the upstroke and the downstroke, doubling the engine's power while creating a much smoother drive. This bidirectional force required a way to keep the piston rod perfectly rigid, so it wouldn't snap under the alternating pressure. Watt engineered the parallel motion linkage, an intricate arrangement of connected rods that guided the piston perfectly straight up and down. The combination of Watt's relentless mechanical optimization and Boulton's aggressive business scaling created the exact operational formula required to take the new technology global. The geographical restrictions on manufacturing evaporated. Because these engines ran entirely on coal and water, massive, high-output production centers could now be constructed in the middle of cities, miles away from the nearest river. Boulton and Watt engines rapidly scaled across the country. They replaced water wheels in cotton mills, drove the heavy hammers in ironworks, and powered large-scale flour mills and distilleries. To manage all this output, Watt introduced the centrifugal governor. This animated diagram shows how spinning heavy balls outward allowed the machine to automatically throttle its own steam intake, regulating its operating speed without any human intervention. By 1785, his engineering achievements earned him a fellowship in the Royal Society. Society itself was pivoting. The long-standing baseline of agricultural economics was giving way to mechanized, high-yield industry. Decades after his death, the international scientific community recognized his precise contributions to energy mechanics by naming the standard unit of electrical and mechanical power in his honor, the watt. James Watt didn't invent the steam engine, but by identifying its exact thermodynamic flaws and engineering the hardware to fix them, he dismantled the energy limits of the past and laid the mechanical foundation for the modern world.